Hey, what's up guys? I am Follygon, and in this video I'm going to be doing some sketching, just for fun. One thing that I really wanted to take away from Sculptober this past year, month-long October sculpting challenge, was getting out of this mindset where I felt like I always had to be working on something that was progressing my art career or, trying to improve some skill, something like that. And I think it's always good to improve, but it's also nice to just sculpt for fun. And that's one of the main reasons why I got into sculpting, to enjoy just experimenting, playing around, and having fun. And I think somewhere along the way, I wouldn't say that I lost it, but I got a little bit out of that mindset for certain. And I want to get back into it today even more. So this is just going to be a simple sketch here. Some nice digital clay. I don't really have a specific direction necessarily in mind, but we are going to keep this super rough throughout the whole process. Super simple. Play around with some shapes and see what we can come up with. I want to play with the proportions in a very exaggerated way. Obviously, we've started to do that quite a bit here. Let's see what else we can do. Kind of liking this really exaggerated chin shooting forward, jousting forward. All right, I think the next thing that's going to help us with direction here a little bit more is going to be some ears and some eyeballs. Thing that always happens when you start to do some eyes really quick like I've just done there, things can look really awkward really quick. So it kind of happens. It's kind of unavoidable. Let's get some ears on there. Made a new ear recently for my brush. Just a little bit more refined than the last. I got a couple different ears in there though. This one, my new favorite one. If you've been watching me for a while, then you might notice something a little bit new here as well. New material. I'm not finished with it yet. I've been kind of experimenting with it. A lot of things right now, and that material is one of them. It's feeling really nice. I think there's still, a few changes that I want to make to it, but if anybody's interested in it, at some point I might upload it somewhere. We'll see. Fun thing about older faces, which I'm trying to go in that direction a little bit here. As you get older, your ears, nose, any kind of cartilage-esque area continues to grow as you get older. Never stops. That's why you see a lot of old people with really big ears or really big noses. So maybe we can integrate that a little bit more here. I have no idea what I'm doing with this mouth form down here. It feels completely absurd. So large. Let's reduce the volume there by a lot. Especially if we want a chin. That's not what chins do. But I did say we could point that a lot more. Maybe something like that. That feels kind of neat. A couple more tweaks to some of these larger volumes here. And we'll start getting some more stuff in there. So I want to keep this pretty messy. This is more of just a sketch than anything else. Trying to find some direction here. Work with rough geometry for the most part. Although I have a habit of attempting to keep things as clean as possible. But I think we can still work with messy. It'll be a little hard to get in that mindset. Let's try it out a little bit more. Try to get a little bit more sunken in here on the cheeks. Get a little bit more of a gaunt face. That always feels fun. This is a gnarly looking face so far. Mainly just want to see these volumes start to shape up. Not go into too much detail necessarily. See what we can come up with less. Try to go for a less is more situation. To some extent. A lot of the time you'll just get some happy accidents occasionally. Very Bob Ross-esque where you might create a shape on accident and things just kind of work out. You kind of like the direction it heads into. You're just sketching something really rough on your surface, and then all of a sudden, hey, that kind of looks neat. And that's kind of what's going on here with the lips a little bit. I kind of like that that shape for the upper lip that I started to get there. Make it a little bit tighter, but I kind of like the narrow aspect of that. Obviously, it needs to pull forward a bit more. Kind of like how that lower lip is extending quite a bit further out, following that line of the chin. So I'll probably experiment with that quite a bit more. Try to push that idea further. Once you kind of understand the fundamentals of, the structure of a face, you can really experiment and play around with a lot of different stuff. As you can see here, this is proportionally pushed into a very far direction, but it still has the general feel of a face, even though it's completely absurd. And that is when things get fun. Lots of fun to experiment with that kind of stuff. In my opinion, it is, at least. It's almost feeling a bit like the Green Goblin from Spider-Man back here with this long, elongated chin and back of the skull there. Maybe we can push a little bit more in a goblin-y direction. That wasn't my intention, but hey, sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. Let's get some nice, deep eyes. Just a lot of nasty skin up through here. We don't have eyelids yet. I don't know if I'll create some, really clean eyelids. Probably not. Like I said, I want to keep it a bit more rough. So let's see if we can just kind of allude to some eyelids instead of concretely getting in there and making these super clean shapes. So I am using a functionality called Dynamesh while I'm sculpting here. Dynamesh is, well, kind of exactly what it sounds like, dynamic mesh. Dynamesh allows me to sculpt and pull out some information, and if it gets really stretched, I can just rerun the algorithm for Dynamesh, and then it kind of fixes that stretching. There's a lot of different ways to work with your geometry, your digital clay here inside of ZBrush. There is another mode called Sculptress Pro, which is really good for sketching like what I'm doing here. Can be nice for that as well. I am more of an old school Dynamesh kind of guy. I just kind of prefer working with the tool that, I'm a little bit more familiar with, and I can have a little bit more access to some specific tools with Dynamesh as compared to Sculptress Pro mode. So like I said, not really anything super clean here for those eyelids. It's kind of a mess if you take a look at that. But it's working. It's kind of getting to a good spot. I am someone that likes to sculpt hyper clean shapes, so it's sometimes very difficult for me to get out of this mindset and just be okay with making really nasty stuff. But we're getting there. There are a couple angles in the eyes that if they aren't right, your eyes can feel very, very awkward no matter how clean or how dirty they actually are. I got a little bit of that going on. I fixed most of it already, but a little bit more here should put us in a good spot. I think it's nice to, if you're just kind of sketching, having fun, give yourself the freedom to experiment and, make mistakes and just kind of, sometimes just make a big mark on your character or whatever you're making and just stick with it. Let's see if we can try to come up with something from that. Limiting yourself can often give yourself some more room for creative solutions. When I started sculpting, one thing that I used to really enjoy doing that I don't do very often is just having this kind of, clay sculpted feeling to my final piece. And I'd like to do that here with this. I think just having some of that brushstroke texture on there can sometimes be really nice. It can be just fun to look at. Might not be super refined or clean or anything like that, but I think it can be nice. Let's do something with this silly nose. He's got a lot of really interesting shapes going on with his larger proportion here. And I'm thinking this nose is probably our weakest point right now. But of course, everything is connected. So the bridge or glabella area here, transitioning into the bridge of the nose, into the brow. It's all connected. So if you work on one area, you have to work on everything else as well. We kind of have these very large forms happening right around this area that just feel a little too, I think, exaggerated, a little too absurd. So I'm just trying to knock some of that back. I'm fine with, I think, keeping a little of the exaggeration, but I don't want it to feel completely unbelievable. Just realized that I've had these ears disconnected this entire time, so I say we get those on there. I like to work with a lot of separate subtools or separate pieces of polygons here, polygon islands, whatever you want to call them. Every software has their own terminology. I just like to have a lot of different pieces. It gives me a lot of control, but eventually you have to connect things back up, make them work together, get some of that sketchy nature back into this ear, play around with a little bit of the volume. Gets a little too thin in a couple areas, and I think a little bit of inflating can help with that. The inflate brush is one of those brushes that I don't use all that often, but I'm trying to use more. I think there are a lot of brushes that do a little bit of a better job than the inflate brush at some of the tasks that it needs or that it's supposed to be used for. But I'm trying to use the inflate brush a little bit more because it can give you some more of those happy accidents, some of those organic situations that you might not have discovered if you were trying to be a little bit more precise with something else. For most of my work, precision is a must, but for something like this, some happy accidents are nice to have. So I think we have a really strong profile, but I'm not super impressed by our straight on view, which is typically the case with a lot of faces. It's something that we look at a lot, and it's easy to know when things are off, and if you push it too far, it can feel a little bit strange. So let's see if we can find a nice happy medium. Doing a little bit more carving in a few specific areas, a little bit more form buildup here and there. Just trying to create some points of interest, some periods of rest, and fix a couple areas that are just a little bit too broken. So I do like this thin lip. The angle of this plane is just a little kind of janked up, and I'm trying to correct that slightly. A perfect place to play around with some inflate, I think. We want to be careful that we don't noodle too much. Noodling, if you don't know, is this idea that you are kind of sketching, resketching, redrawing, resculpting, whatever it might be, and you are not really making any changes to what you're working on. You're just kind of fiddling with it. But that is okay because I am at the point in which I want to break symmetry. I'm going to give our eyes a little bit more of a sculptural taste. This is a little technique where you just depress in the form of your eyeball. So just like that, you give it a little extra form, and then you can manually sculpt on a little piece for a highlight, which is always nice. Or you can just throw on a little extra piece of geometry. It could be a sphere, it could be a little pulled out tab, anything really works, with the objective of just creating a little point to catch a highlight. It's an old technique, and it's taken from traditional sculpture, but it works really well here for what we're doing as well. Okay, so let's break some symmetry here a little bit more. Now, I am not a person that uses the standard brush a lot, but I'm going to use it to adjust some quick volumes in a few areas, and then I'll be going back over it with my personal clay brush. I'll also be adding a little bit more texture to a few areas. So there we go, we're starting to get even more of that clay texture on there. This is a very simple brush that I have. I've been using it for a long time. It's my own personal clay brush. Essentially, the goal of this brush is to just have a brush that adds or subtracts form from your surface. I just get a really nice clean brush stroke out of this clay brush personally. And I know a lot of other people that have downloaded it from my Gumroad have had the same results and success with it. It's a great brush. I use it all the time. Mainly, I am blending a lot of the form where it's a bit more messy, a bit more uneven. Some places we have some fun, happy accidents of some pockets of volume that I am just exaggerating a little bit, but for the most part, I am attempting to blend and get some more of that texture on our surface. You can have some fun by switching up the direction of your brush strokes as well. Get rid of some of the monotonous form in a few areas. And it's important, once again, that you're not too hyper-specific, as this is just a sketch here. We don't need to define every little thing. Can have a little bit more detail in areas where you might want the viewer to focus a little bit more. Oh, we got a little error there. There we go. So if you specifically want them to be looking at your character's eyes a little bit more, or maybe if you don't like your eyes, you might want to bring the attention elsewhere. So removing some detail from the eyes can be helpful. I especially want to adjust the form around the central line where symmetrically we had a bit more of some similar shapes from left to right. So getting rid of some of that is very important as well. And it's never too late to take a step backwards and work on some of your larger shapes. For example, I am wanting to pull out the ridge of this brow just a little bit more. Make it a bit more prominent from this 3/4 view. So right now it's feeling very flat. Ooh, I'm noticing just a little thing here with that eye. Let's pull this in a little bit. There we go. I am not necessarily going for anything specific here, or at least I wasn't when I started. But I'm just picking up on some shapes as I go, little things that interest me visually or emotionally. Maybe not quite emotionally for something like this little sketch. But it's a lot of fun. And I'm just trying to find those fun areas that I like and emphasize those a little bit more. Find the not so good areas that I dislike and remove those as much as I can. We're only at about 30 minutes here, so really that's not a long time for sculpting a face, but for just a quick sketch, I think that is plenty of time. I'll spend a little bit more here, just refining a few more areas, and I think we'll call this a good sketch for a face here. I'm gonna mess with some of the larger proportions here of our head. Honestly, you can go completely crazy with some of these changes, move bones around, just have fun. It's really not meant to be something that you should be super concerned about messing up or having these really weird proportions. It's just a sketch. Keep that in mind. It's a lot. I'm saying this a lot, but it is difficult to kind of let go of that sometimes, and that is why it's important to do this kind of thing from time to time. All right, I think the areas that I'm least happy with are probably the ears and the eyes. Kind of liking the general larger shape. I think that's feeling really nice. I think we might be able to play with a little bit more form here for the ears. Doesn't need to be anything too specific, but one, breaking the monotony on the symmetrical shapes, and two, just maybe creating something a little bit more abnormal, a little bit more exaggerated. All right, that's starting to feel more visually in line with some of the other stuff I've been working on. Let's just sketch on some simple eyebrows and call these eyes good. One thing that can help is just adding a little bit of paint as well. So for the paint, I am going to do something a little bit different here. I'm just going to go black and white, add some areas of shadow, some areas of highlight to interest, and yeah, I think we'll call it done. So I don't do this very often, and this is very rough right now. I've only added a couple brush strokes on for color, but I actually like the kind of black and white clay aesthetic quite a lot. I think you can do some really cool things here just by playing around with value and nothing else. Not worrying about color so much, but more so just value. Your blacks and whites and darks and lights. This might look very extreme right now. It's actually meant to be. Normally when I do a first pass on paint, I do what's called overpainting, and sometimes your character or whatever you're painting can look a little clown-like initially, but that's okay. It's all part of the process. You overpaint a little bit, and then you knock it back after you figure out exactly what you're going to do a little bit more with your paint. All right, just starting to darken a few other areas, fill in some more form here, while also knocking back some of the super dark areas that I've painted in. What's so fun about this is, I didn't wake up this morning and say, like, have this head in my head. I wasn't imagining sculpting this or anything. And that's what's so fun about sketching. It's a good way to just practice your creativity, create something visually interesting, and maybe even not think so hard about it. Just kind of get in and create. All right, so from here, what I do, it's very easy. I just infill a little bit of my initial starting color, which is just going to be white here, and I can do this to essentially knock back that effect a little bit. So that is the full effect there. That's reducing it a little bit more, trying to find a nice kind of happy medium there. There we go. So that's, I think, a really nice kind of in-between there that brings a little bit more focus to a few specific areas. You got to be careful if you're doing something like this, especially if you're attempting to hand paint some shadows. That can be very dangerous. But I think that, like I said, we have found a nice happy medium, and I think we'll try to render this really quick. So I think I'm going to do some individual renders here because I don't really have enough room for all this junk. So let's move some lights around, find something a little bit more nice. Okay, so just finished up a ton of renders here, 3 to be precise. And I am going to now be compositing these into Photoshop. So let's check out what we got. So I kept these all super simple. I think I'm just going to do a black background here initially at least. Let's go ahead and widen that out, make some room for the rest of our heads. Not going to do anything too complicated here. My rendering was very simple as well. As you can see, just a very simple 3-point light. Really, it was just 2, and then I had one really far off just to give a little bit of extra infill. Not too much, though. As you can see, these are all very dark. So let's get these positioned here. And maybe organize those a little bit better so this one is off here on the far left. I actually like that profile view quite a lot. I don't know how I'm going to use that, or if I'll just kind of use that as the main render. I took a few because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with this, but hey, just a sketch, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, I think that looks pretty good for essentially what I was going for here, which is just a quick sketch. Get a few quick heads here to show the presentation. I think it all turned out pretty well. But yeah, let's check it out here, maybe a little bit larger on screen. All right, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know what we did today was pretty simple. It was just a sketch of a head, but I thought it would be fun to just kind of talk through the process of creating something, not with the intention of really trying to grow in any specific skill or create something with a purpose other than having some fun. So with that, thank you again so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.